You are now listening to Broken Line Podcast, presented by Fish Addictions TV. Eskimo ice fishing gear. 13 Fishing. Coles Resort of Bemidji, Minnesota. Aaron Eichhorst Photography.
So season 2 of the Broken Line Podcast, and I would say in most cases I think you, our guest here for the first episode of this season, having Chip Leer in the building is phenomenal, because not only are we starting the season out with someone who has tons of fishing knowledge, we also have tournament knowledge, etc. So I want to say thank you for coming, and we're going to get into it here for an awesome podcast, beginning of our next season. Are you excited?
I'm really jacked up. This is all good. The studio impresses the heck out of me here. I got to tell you, it's the Matador back here.
That is a velvet painting.
That's pretty cool.
If you touch it, it's like velvet.
I got that from my parents' house, and my little brother actually claimed it, and I had to call him up. He lives in California, to see if I could bring it up here, and he said, "I'll loan it to you."
Yeah,
but yeah.
So it's on loan. It's kind of like
on loan,
as any good piece of artwork is. It's part of a collection, and this one just happens to be on loan.
It's a good representation of
you,
of me. Yeah,
it's your self-portrait.
Just dodging danger.
Well, it's weird because when you think of like a fishing, hunting, outdoor news type podcast, what is that guy doing there? But he's serving a good purpose, and
what's that?
The purpose is behind it is a door to electrical switches. So we're covering up a whole but yeah, we got Chip Leer in the building. I want to start out, Chip, for the people who don't know, which how do you not know, who is Chip Leer? Who are you? Give me a little bit about yourself.
Oh my gosh. I'm a guy who likes to fish. I mean, that's pretty much who I am. I mean, I grew up in the city of Minneapolis, and I got to go on vacation fishing. And my dad and I came up to this area right here between Cass Lake and Lake of the Woods is where I spent the majority of my time as a kid, and really learned what it was like to be out on a lake and catch a few fish. I mean, Lake Bemidji, my aunt had a house right across the street from the Blue Ox Resort, and they had a deal with the Blue Ox Resort that I could walk across the street and hop in one of their boats, and I would row it out to the end of the pencil reeds there and throw out an anchor and catch perch all day, and I thought I was in heaven.
That's a deal right there.
So would you say that deal was the beginning of it all?
Oh no! It definitely planted the seed to awesome. I love to fish, and that's what I and then I grew up and I went to college and I tried to get a real job, and that was a long week.
That was a long week.
And then I'm like, this is, in all seriousness, I tried for a number of years, and there was some other contributing factors as well. But eventually, I'm like, this is not my gig. I want to go fish, and that's when I took off. We were on vacation to Lake of the Woods, a buddy of mine and I, and he was guiding up off Oak Island on Lake of the Woods, and we went up there, and I kind of saw what he was doing. I'm like, this guiding thing, this might be a little bit more up my alley, and I took off to do that, and that was right about 30 years ago.
So you were a guide?
Yeah, started
out
as a fishing guide.
So however long I've known you, I've never known. So this is why I like this. I've never known that you were a guide whatsoever, and that's interesting, because I've always known you from the videos, the TV shows, the
promotional sides
of things. So to be able to be a guide, that's cool, especially up in Lake of the Woods, which is a huge lake.
So I moved up.
That's
to Oak
where
Island.
It was, right?
Yeah, moved up to Oak Island, Lake of the Woods, and started guiding fishing up there, and that was 19 would have been 19. What is that? 88.
Okay.
Yeah, 1988. So that's 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So 30 years
ago. How old are you?
27. Don't even break the.
See, I remember 1988 because I'm 44. So
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, not me. No, I don't remember any of that stuff because I wasn't here.
That's cool. It was what, the fishing was good then, and fishing's good now.
That's
all good.
That's all that matters. Right?
So anyway, that's my gig. I just like to fish. I started as a fishing guide, and I've gone through the fishing industry, taken lots of left and right turns. The commitment I made to myself when I left Minneapolis was in 88, or when I decided to be a fishing guide, was that I was going to figure out a way to make a living fishing one way, shape, or form.
Right.
And over 30 years, you have to adjust adjust that plan a number of times. I could have continued on and been happy as a fishing guide, and that was good. But my personality kind of forces me into other things and trying other things, and that's kind of how I've evolved inside the fishing industry.
Yeah. Do you still guide from time to time, or is that pretty much?
Yeah, I haven't really
You don't have time, do you?
guided.
Yeah,
No. And so I don't really guide, but I guide in a different way. So I'm very active in charity events. So I'll go, you take people fishing, and once you're a guide, you're always a guide, right? I mean, you learn how to take care of people in a boat, and that's part of our industry is introducing people into the sport of fishing. So you get to do that all the time.
Awesome.
And that's guiding. You just don't collect any money at the end of the day.
Right.
That's yeah. Well, but you like to help people, and you're an informative type of person. I mean, when you first started, when I first started to know you, and filmed with you, we a lot of promotional videos and stuff like that, and we'll get into that in a second. But what's your favorite? What's your favorite kind of fishing? I mean, what do you like to do in general? I mean, is there a certain fish you like? Is there a certain location you like? What's your favorite? Because you've gone all over and done tons of different trips. So
right now, I'm kind of getting into fly fishing. That's kind of my latest craze.
And where are you doing that?
Anywhere that there's a stream or off my dock at home.
There you go.
So
practice it.
Yeah, any way, shape, or form that I can. And I bring that up because of the fact that I think that I've gone through it all. I moved to Lake of the Woods in '88 because I was obsessed with muskie fishing, and I wanted to be a muskie guide. And I was only going to fish for muskies because there was not another fish that mattered besides muskies.
Typical muskie person, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. All in, blinders on.
Yep.
But then I got hungry, and I realized that I had to eat. And the muskie season was only so long. So I better learn how to guide for walleyes, and I better learn how to catch crappies. And through that, I've kind of gone through this evolution of, I got obsessed with muskie fishing, then I get obsessed with walleye fishing, and then I get obsessed with pan fishing for a while, and then you got the whole ice fishing thing going on. And I think I keep going through that.
But which is good because you're keeping a cycle of fresh instead of getting burnt out on things. You're switching,
and you keep and I personally like it because I keep rediscovering the same thing. I've gone through a couple episodes where I'm obsessed with panfish, or I've gone through a few, or I learn a new technique of catching smallmouth, and I'll just focus in on that. And this is one of the things that got me out of guiding early on, was because I kept hearing and reading about different techniques and ways to catch fish, and I couldn't experiment as a guide. A guide, I kind of felt like I was handcuffed a little bit. Mm-hmm. And you have to do what's producing fish for the guests that day, and taking a risk. This was remember, this is the late '80s, early '90s. Everything is coming out. Planer boards are new, bottom bouncers are new, electronics were new. Everything was. There was all this explosion of techniques and tackle and equipment and gear, and you couldn't waste a couple of hours trying something.
Yeah, I'm on the very similar journey as well as far as fish species go. I mean, people that know me, I'm all over the map, and it's the same thing. Growing up, I was hyper obsessed with largemouth bass fishing. I wanted to fish with Hank Parker and all those guys. And it just I didn't get bored with it, but something happened. It was during a tournament and fish weren't going, but I found other species and I fished for them, and was like, that's to me what fishing was about, was just all the different flavors, and that's what I continue to do to this day. And you said fly fishing, and that is starting to interest me. Once again, I walked away from it for a little bit, but I want to come back to it. It's a lot like golf. So what I'm discovering, I'm not very good at golf, so I'm not very good at fly casting either. It's the same thing.
And truthfully, I think that it's the casting part. What am I most obsessed about fly fishing? It's really fun to catch a fish in a fly rod, right?
Yes.
It's very forgiving, and it's really fun, and you elongate the fight of the fish, and there's a lot of visuals that go along with it. Why do I like topwater fishing? Why do we like muskie fishing? Because it's a very visual sport. But fly fishing, it's the most
challenge of casting,
and it's the casting, and it's getting it to do what you want And
Yeah.
And that's
part's
why
really
I compare
fun.
it to golf. You know, you watch the guys on TV, and it's like, oh, I can go and do that. No, you can't.
No, you can't.
And I learned that after watching some fly fishing stuff. I'm like, I'm going to get a fly rod and go fly fishing, thinking it was just like spinning or casting or anything like that. And I realized within like 3 minutes, like, nope.
Well, you see them,
Can't do that.
like the pros, let's say, do that, casting it out. And then I've definitely been to like iCast and stuff, and I've picked it up, and I'm like, there's just no way. There's a whole form to it. It's not like you just push a button and you flick the bail and you give her a cast. I mean, it's a whole nother series of challenges just to get it to the fish or wherever, you want it to be. And then there's a whole technique. Yeah, I mean, not my thing. I'd like to come see you do it.
But the best thing for me about fly fishing is the fact that an ugly cast can catch a fish.
Right.
It doesn't have to be pretty. And
But-
getting over that, right?
Right,
Knowing
that's
that
the
there's
part.
people that cast much better than I am, and they have a much better technique, but they've grown up doing it. I'm a late, I'm starting this late in life, learning something completely new, and that is, but it's okay if I get it to lay right. The fish, it's still a lure, and the fish is still going to eat it.
Right. But there's that change in mindset where, okay, yeah, it's going to eat, but instead of practicing or worrying about if the bait is deep enough or if you're on the right speed of retrieve, it comes back down to like, okay, I caught a fish, but the cast was terrible. I need to refine the mechanics. It's refining the mechanics of it that interests me more than catching fish.
So that
It's
wouldn't
like, I wanna
bug
be
me.
a good fly caster.
If
It's still
I
fun
do
to catch
if I
fish.
if I do
Well,
a-
yeah.
If I do a crappy cast and I catch a fish, I'm gonna be pumped about it. I'm not gonna be like, damn, I need to figure out how to.
Well,
It's like
I-
if I score a goal on hockey and it's like not quite right. Like, well, how? I'm just glad I scored.
Well, I bring it up because I think that in fishing in general, right? I was apprehensive to go fly fishing because of my inability to make a good cast, and and it was new to me, and I had to try it. But I think that is important all across the board in the world of fishing, and that's why one of the reasons I'm pushing this is in all of fishing, we've become very specialized in everything that we do, whether it's ice fishing, bass fishing, walleye fishing,
Right.
Salmon fishing, whatever, catfishing. Everybody's really kind of
got their own special.
got their own little specialty.
Chosen their flavor.
Yeah. And you know what? You don't have to be, you just got to go try. And I think that we're building up part of one of the challenges that I see us creating for ourselves in the world of fishing, not trying to make this into something that it's not, this conversation, but it's breaking down barriers that it's okay to go out and make mistakes, because through mistakes we become better anglers in however we want to go.
I mean, I
fishing.
know you just said you didn't want to make it something that it wasn't, but when we've talked about it in other podcasts, that exact thing is that going outside of your comfort zone to try something new, whether that's, he likes the rough fish, the weird fish, right? Everyone's like, oh, let's go walleye fishing, and he wants to do, well, maybe you break out and do something different. So to be able to test the waters, if you want to go fly fishing, don't be afraid because of techniques and all this stuff. Just go do it and try. Maybe it's by yourself or with friends, but one of the questions to me is, do you watch YouTube videos? Do you have people? What made you grab that rod and then, or purchase one? I'm guessing you bought. You have some?
Yeah.
Okay. So what made you go to that river, and is there anyone that you go with to help you? Do you watch YouTube videos? Or do you just start casting and try?
I think it really came from the fact that I went in and looked at my shop, and those were the only rods I didn't have. No.
What's missing
And I
here?
need more.
I can see that.
More rods.
Yeah, I can see that.
No, I learned lots of different ways, but mostly I need hands-on. I need somebody. I really want somebody there to work with me.
And is there anyone there that's been helping you?
Yeah, there's a couple guys that are local in the town that I live in Walker, Minnesota, that are helping me there. And then I've also bumped into, and wherever I fish, you bump into, fishermen
Someone
bump into
else, yeah.
fishermen.
Right.
And the one thing about fishermen, no matter what it is, whether it's fly fishing or cat fishing or walleye fishing, if you start talking, they will help.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
especially if you posture yourself properly and don't come in about, I can outdo you, or try to, come in inquisitive. People want to talk fishing and they want to help, and people generally like to provide information if you ask for it nicely.
Yeah.
They're
I
happy
think
to
it was
help.
last summer I was at Cameron Park with my daughter, and there was a group of people there that were fly casting, and it was all women, and then there was a guy was instructing and his wife, and they were part of the fly fishing club here in town that I did not know existed. And of course, being a fisherman and like, what is going on? I went over and I talked to him, and I think this winter I'm going to try to, if I have some time. There's a fly tying club here in Bemidji that.
I think I remember you telling this. They had a class in the downtown somewhere, right? A fly fishing class.
Well, it's a fly tying club. They meet like once a week during the evening, and you just get together and tie flies, and there's experts there that will help you out, and that's so along with the fly rod that I built like 10 years ago, now I'm gonna start tying flies, but I'm on that same road.
I think admire it's really the ability the making rods, tying, or wrapping rods and tying flies. That's two things, and I've tried to tie my own bucktails. I'm awful at all the three of those. They're not pretty. They're not very pretty. No, I'm not. That's not me.
It's not.
No, I'm just not.
Just buy a couple.
It doesn't. They don't look very good.
And now the flies that I tie up, they're nothing. They're nothing special. It's recipes up here. Like, I think
the fish might not care.
And that's what I've discovered. I made these really cool grasshoppers out of craft foam. I bought all my fly tying stuff from like Joann Fabrics or Craft Part Department of Walmart, and I just kind of mash it together, and they work. They're not going to win any contests, but they work. And that's the other cool part along with fly fishing is it seems to be natural when somebody gets into it. They want to learn how to tie their own flies, and then there's that satisfaction of catching a fish on a bait that you made.
I'll give you that. There's definitely that.
That's pretty fun stuff.
Yeah. I just know that mine aren't real pretty.
They don't have to be.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to post it online, there might be some hate, but if the fish, he doesn't know.
Ugly fly, ugly cast. Just ugly fishing.
And award-winning fish he pulls up. But you're very, as anyone is listening now, you're a very good talker on camera, not on camera, in person. That's that personality of yours that comes out. What got you into the fishing industry? Now, I'm not talking about back in the day when you got into fishing and the outdoors, but the actual industry, because we're going to get into all the stuff on the industry part right now. But what got you into it? I mean, was there someone that got you into a company, or how'd you start?
Yeah, like the promotional side of things.
It started in two things happened for me to get from the fishing side of it over to the promotional side or inside the industry. First of which was when I was on Lake of the Woods. Eventually, I was living on Oak Island, and we had taken a resort that was closed and opened it up in the winter, built some fish houses, and we're taking people ice fishing and trying to drum up business. One of the things that the resort owner did was they got on the phone and they rallied some outdoor media to come up and go fishing with us. So that was my first experience where I ever took anybody from the outdoor media fishing, and took them out, and we went ice fishing. It's a big, hard fish house. Nothing fancy, but we caught a bunch of walleyes, and we cooked up a walleye shore lunch and did the whole 9 yards. And it was a nice day, and it was relatively, I don't want to say laid back, but it was not exactly high stress. We caught fish, we cooked fish, same as any other guide trip that you would do. And
except for they're the media. That's like taking a food blogger to your restaurant.
What do I know? I'm in my 20s. I don't know anything. So we take these guys fishing. Well, they get back and they printed this, which was in a suburban newspaper in Minneapolis, and our phones lit up and the reservations went crazy from one article. And this light bulb goes on inside my head that was like, oh my gosh, that was unbelievable. So this is what the media does. You take them fishing and they help drive you business. This is better than anything I'd ever seen before. So there was that experience. A couple years later, I'm working with another lodge, and I'm still working on my guiding business at this point. Mm-hmm. I'm working on another lodge, and they decided that they were going to film an episode of Midwest Outdoors. And the lodge owner said, "Hey, would you take these guys fishing when they come up?" So a
lot of people would jump on a thing like that.
I'll do that.
Sure.
This is back in this is right around 1990. So you got to remember, there's you're wired to the camera. So you're wired.
Right.
There's a wire running up your leg through your shirt to hold on to the microphone, and everybody's cabled together, and you can only move like 2 square feet.
Right.
Somehow we're supposed to go fishing. Well,
I would have liked to see that.
Dan Gapin was actually the host of the show, so I take Dan out crappie fishing on Lake Cabotogama, and we caught really nice crappies and had a great day. The thing aired that winter, and there it was again, bam. All of a sudden, my entire guide summer was booked from shooting one episode of a television program. And I'd never seen anything like this in my life. So there's 2 instances there. And it was right about that same time that I had been doing the ice fishing. Now I'd done a couple of media shots. And through that, I'd ended up meeting, while I was fishing, I ended up meeting a guy who brought me down, who was working with Fenwick fishing rods, and had me start to do a couple of promotional appearances. He just said, "Come on down, help me out in my booth," of which I did. And long story short, while working in that booth, I ended up getting connected with Jeff Arnold from Reed Sporting Goods, and I met him, and that really changed everything. Is once I met Jeff, because that was just like going to graduate school on marketing, because I got under his belt and started going to sports shows working with him, and I learned an enormous amount about marketing and the industry and what makes consumers look at products. And that's what I learned from Jeff, was as consumers are digesting the fishing information. So I got this media fishing information. I got Jeff Arnold and the whole retail consumer marketing angle going on here. I'm kind of in the middle going, okay, so this is the marketing side, this is the media side. If you take that information and put it that way and now I get how this thing works. Now I understand. And suddenly, from a guiding standpoint, I can keep guiding, and I can start educating, and I can get, while I'm doing that, I can be working for different manufacturers, helping them drive product. And once I figured that out, it all kind of came together.
So it's crazy how 1 or 2 little tiny incidents made it all can literally life change or alter your path.
Yeah,
I mean, that's crazy.
But I think that's true with everybody. I mean, there's just different moments that happen that you kind of get to the corner and you're like, oh, this happened, right? And then this kind of happens, and you kind of follow the route.
Yeah. So how do you feel about back then it was an article and a TV show. Now we have this juggernaut called the internet. Has that dumbed things down, so to say, because everybody's got worldwide? They can promote worldwide via their YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all that stuff, Twitter. Has that affected the way that whole part of the industry works now?
I think, yeah.
To a good degree or a bad degree, or?
Well, I think for a great degree. I think it's taken all the BS out of marketing. I think that you cannot baloney a consumer anymore.
Right.
I think that there was a lot there was an era there where everything was made to look or falsified, for lack of a better term.
Going door to door and selling, back in the day, selling the vacuum cleaner 6000, which was awesome, but you couldn't Google it and see all the bad reviews. You just took the guy's word. So yeah, I could see it positive.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that you can take I don't know if anybody listening to this knows that, but you can make a fish look bigger depending on how you hold the fish. Really?
Oh, yeah.
No, but back in the day, that was not common knowledge. It was so fish got made to look bigger, and at the same time, a lot of marketing was utilized to make it appear that whatever this next gadget was the end all of end alls. And I think that what the good part about what we have going on now is that
cleans up the falsification of
it. Right, and I think that the lifespan where any product would come into the marketplace in fishing, and it would have a couple of years lifespan, and it would make it long term if it was a good product, right? Mm-hmm. But however, if and now what happens is, and it was almost guaranteed a few cycles on the retail shelf. In today's day and age, it's not guaranteed anything. I think that consumers get a hold of it, they utilize it, they chew it up, they share their information on the internet, and if it's good, it's going to stick. But if it's not, it's not going to make it through the season.
Right.
It's in the closeout bin 6 months after it came out. Right.
Yeah, that's true.
So I there's a whole challenge for manufacturers now because they get one shot. They don't get a season to make it, and it's like electronics. I mean, there's really good electronics, but if they don't have every bug worked out before it hits the shelf, people are on the internet. Oh yeah, it's over. They all want it to go back before it even got launched. And
I've never even thought of it that way. How from back in the day, you could really probably falsify a lot of things compared to now. I mean, it's true.
Falsify is probably the wrong word, but you just could. You had a lot more
slip ups,
secrets. You could mold your marketing image. You had much better opportunity to mold it, and where you can't today. I don't think you can do that. I don't think that
the power of social media reviews people everything
fast.
Yeah,
and they like you or hate you.
Yeah, right away.
Oh no, absolutely.
And
unfortunately, this podcast got turned off 20 minutes ago.
No, not with you. It's going all the way.
Well, and I think it's a positive. I think it's a positive thing for manufacturers. That we're actually getting real time feedback.
The downside to it is that nobody has time to improve it. Nobody takes time.
Right.
There's no R&D even in the smallest of items anymore because nobody has time for it. So they kind of build it and launch it, and it ends up in the consumer's hands whether they're ready for it or not, and whether the product's ready or not. That's
I was just going to say,
there's
there's some things that I've noticed, like, I think that this is a prototype. We're going to see an advancement of the same thing next year. Let's just get something out there, get feedback. And I think that's a pretty slick manufacturing process.
And someone else comes through with some new product, or you only have a year to make it, before there's another product challenging. That's why they slip it out so quick. I mean,
you have to lead right now.
Yeah.
I think that's that's too bad, but it is what it is, right? I mean, it's and that's where I think it's kind of interesting of where this is all where the whole industry is going, because everything is getting chewed up and used up so fast that it's rotated. And I think that retail marketplace, at least in my experience, what's new is what's hot, right? So they want whatever's newest and hottest and got the most push behind it. That's what they want to put on the shelf. And unfortunately, a lot of good products get introduced, and a lot of good products get built, and a lot of good products get an attempt. But if they don't sell right away, they get nixed, even if they're good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the consumer loses. So where do we lose in all this? We lose because we overlook the good stuff sometimes just because we don't have enough time to discover it.
Right.
There's a lot of really good little companies out there. That's where we're watching this industry, and these companies keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But there's a whole bunch of really tiny companies out there that are producing really good stuff, really quality products. Mm-hmm. And they may only have 2, 3, 4 items in their
arsenal.
Yeah, and some of it's really good, but you gotta discover it, and it's not so easy to find anymore.
It's overlooked by bigger companies. Ads. I mean, you don't even. You go and there's an Eskimo Club or a clam ad, but there's the little ones get pushed down to the bottom. The word of mouth, though, I mean, when you think of it, that's one good way.
As I'm a consumer just like everybody else, and there's times where it's like, do I jump in now or do I wait till next year? I just had a buddy at work that he was all excited. I got a Helix 10 side imaging Mega. He's like, he just got it like maybe a month or 2 ago. I said, man, you should have waited. A Mega Imaging 3 coming out here pretty soon. Yeah. He's like, yeah, I know, but I said, when is the right time to jump in?
But I'll fall back to this. It's true with anywhere in fishing, and in all my experience in fishing, for most of us, just get the best one that you can at that given time and learn how to run it.
Right.
Like electronics especially. Just get it, understand it, learn how to run it, and put your blinders on to whatever comes out for a while. Right. And seriously, until you figure out what you're running. Yeah. And then and then you're okay, because otherwise, if you start thinking about what coulda, woulda, shoulda, you're going to drive yourself absolutely batty. And that's true with rods and reels and everything.
Yeah, I mean, my electronics in my boat is still on auto. I just want to get to fishing, so I just leave it on auto. As long as I can see the bottom and the temperature, I'm good to go.
If you're,
there's a lot more I could learn, and maybe someday I will.
Yeah, I mean, we've made it really. I look at one of the things that messaging and communicating inside the industry for myself. One of the messages that I really try to push is to keep this sport as simple as possible. I think that in our race to get to the front of the retail store, the manufacturers have forced themselves to overcomplicate literally everything we do, from rods to reels to line to everything. And it's not a complicated sport. Just it's still a fish. It's not that smart.
Right.
It's really not.
This would be a good one for you to ask that tech question that you wanted to ask.
Well, yeah, that kind of leads right into that. Like, where do you, with all of these advancements that just keep happening every year, bigger, better, stronger, faster, what do you think, and I've asked this question before, but do you think that this is going to have some sort of strong, I'm trying to think of the word here, how do you think it's going to affect our regulations as fishermen? Would you like to see, or have you thought about, as our electronics get better, our fishing rods get better, our knowledge gets better, should that be a direct reflection into our catch and our capture, our bag limits and stocking programs and that type of stuff? Because it is a little bit easier these days to find and locate fish.
No, I don't think we should ever regulate anything, especially bag limits and harvest rates or anything based on technology. Okay. I really don't believe that. I live in Minnesota. We're a one rod state. I think that's the most ridiculous thing in the world, that we limit ourselves to one rod. Fisheries and wildlife in general should be managed solely on where they live and how they're able to, how well they inhabit the place they live. So whether it's per acre for a whitetail or if it's per acre for a walleye, how populated that lake is and the health of that fishery should determine how we manage bag limits.
But wouldn't the direct reflection of that?
It's just like I understand why we have seasons, but I'm not always a big fan of seasons, right? I think we should have the right to go and pursue the fish, and whether we harvest the fish or not, that's a different ball game.
Okay.
But I don't like saying we can't do that because we're too smart because of our electronics can show us a fish. Well,
it's kind of like
it doesn't make it bite.
Binoculars can show me a deer. It doesn't mean I can hit it.
Right. And I thought about that too. But at the same time, when you can get rock piles on GPS on your phone, which without that stuff was really hard to find. And there's a large concentration of fish, so more people can have this information, which would draw them to that area. So that's where my head's at. Where the more information that everybody has on the same bodies of water is going to increase the pressure and increase, capture, so to speak, to some level.
Or we can have more catch and release seasons. I think the more information is the better. Right here, we're dealing with outdoor sports, and we're dealing with fishing. And nationwide, our numbers are dropping. Period. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make a difference if you're hunting or fishing. The more regulations you put on that, the more times you tell them they can't go, the more things you say you can't do,
the more they're not going to do it.
The more they're not going to do it. The more opportunity we give people to fish, right? And all this technology has done, supposedly, is we think it gives us more opportunity to find and catch fish, which I think it does for the more, if you understand how to use it. Right. But you got to get out there and understand how to use it. I think we need. I think people should be out there more often and give them more opportunity to fish for more times a year in more different ways with more rods and more instead of limiting it, because I think it just gives us more opportunity to enjoy it.
And with more exposure would come more appreciation.
And I would hope we would do more education. I mean, if we can do anything, we can as sportsmen, we can take ourselves in better effort in educating the next generations that are coming how important it is to protect all these resources. I followed a generation that was nothing but just catching. Oh yeah, every single thing they caught, they ate.
Yeah.
And that was my dad. That's who he was. That's that's what they did.
Right.
They were. My generation kind of went through this transition. Now you're watching a group of this next generation of anglers come up that really wants. It's all for sport.
Right.
I mean, everything is for sport. I mean, it's all about catching and releasing it, and that's all. That's a huge. This is wonderful to see, especially if the caring about the environment, and we've watched water get so much cleaner, and we've watched all these good things happen. That's fabulous.
And that's what I was talking about. Now that you put it that way, it's more exposure, more information. They get out there more, they start appreciating more, they start understanding what it's about, and thus we've created another steward of the water.
Also do it.
That's like, oh, okay, this is what this is about now.
What do you think
pass that along.
affection-wise on tournaments for electronics, the more advanced they get? Is it the same thing? You just keep getting after it, letting it happen? And because the more electronics, it may be the easier the fishing, but also I think the more electronics you add, the more challenges come into play too. But I don't know, what's your kind of take on the advancement of technology in the future for tournament fishing?
It has, it's no secret that electronics have cut the learning curve for tournaments. I mean, it made it so much faster to dissect a body of water.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just being able to all the different things that you can do to narrow and shrink these massive bodies of water has helped. And I like having electronics and having the game opened up. I think the more is better as far as I'm concerned in the world of tournament fishing. I mean, let's get to the point where we start having throwback tournaments and retro tournaments and no electronic
That'd be
tournaments.
Cool to
and
do.
you could do all that stuff, but you know what? That's not what drives everything right now.
Right.
It certainly isn't what drives the industry. I mean, it seems like the technology is actually leading the pack, and I think it's one of the things that I think that we're seeing an influx of youth in the world of fishing in high school and college, especially in the tournament side of things. I think part of that is due to technology, the technological advantage that a 22-year-old or a 20-year-old has over a 45-year-old.
Right.
Is their ability to decipher an electronic program that much faster, and that's a generational. It's a generational difference. They've been running phones since they were born.
Right.
And they can
literally.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
And I think that they get into a boat and they're smarter than their dad in that sense.
It's just intuitive.
Yep. And they can pick apart a body of water, find the fish faster, catch them, and be the hero, and that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, like with the you're involved with the what is it?
Yes.
The Cabela's
National Walleye Tour.
There it is.
Yes.
NWT. Sorry, it's been a long day.
Yeah.
Now, with this technology, it was just a couple of years ago. I was watching TV and I saw Major League Fishing. So there's one guy in a boat, and there's a guy with this striped shirt on, has an iPad, they catch the fish, they weigh it right there, log it in, it gets sent in, the fish is released right there. Do you see that in the future for just about any species fish tournament coming along?
Why not?
I think it would be great.
Well, it's coming for walleye in about 3 weeks.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, I did not know that.
Classic Bass is launching Classic Walleye and doing a test tournament on Mille Lacs.
Okay.
Where they're doing the exact format in the world of walleye. It's not a big thing. They've limited it to the number of people. It's nothing more than a test event. But they've been doing that for the last couple of years in the world of bass. So they've got the program down. They know how it gets done. Now they're going to try to do it on walleyes, and they're going to do it on one of the premier walleye fisheries in all of Minnesota. They're going to do it on Lake Mille Lacs.
That's awesome, because when I saw it, I was like, now this is cool, because I'm kind of a tech head, and then I was like, that just makes the fish is caught right there, released right there. Everything is good.
It's wonderful. And we'll see where this all goes. I applaud Scott Bonema and the entire Classic Bass, Classic Walleye crew for trying to get this off the ground and give it a shot. Because I don't think we know what, if any, problems will come from walleye. You don't know that till you do it. That's why they're doing a test event, right?
Oh,
you got to get in there and give it a shot.
Yeah.
But it's great for bass, and I certainly think it's. I watch Major League Fishing, and if I have an office day and I turn that on, or if I turn on a Classic Bass tournament, which is a Major League type of format, these are day killers for me, because I will want, especially the major leagues that got cameras in their boat, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm just going to sit there and I'm going to watch and find out, why is he tying that on, right? Or what's he doing now? Or and you next thing you know is it's an hour and 10 minutes later and you're still watching a guy cast, and you think to yourself, I've lost my mind. I'm watching somebody fish.
Today's day shot.
The other thing I noticed about that format too is that angler, he gets updated information right there.
It's the best.
Like, okay, man, you're a pound and a quarter out of the lead.
You need one. You need one right now, and this is how big you need.
Yeah,
that's good stuff.
I mean, because all the people fishing, let's say NWT, they don't know until they walk across the stage. This way, they're like, crap, I need to try harder.
Just think about it. You're on the water, and you're told, okay, man, you need 2 pounds, 4 more ounces, and you've got this. Now the pressure is even more intense. Instead of like, I think I got it. The
only thing that I'm not a fan of is we've spent my entire life in tournament fishing looking for the biggest fish in the system. And what separated anglers was the best 5 or 6 or 4 or whatever the bag limit was in that tournament fish for that day. So where this format is strictly a numbers game. This is all about, it seems like it's all about the numbers, because every fish weighs, every fish counts. So you can sit literally, you could catch 5 8-pounders, or you can catch 81 pounders. Who's the better angler?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So
I definitely I think that would be a cool format to watch in the Walleye League.
Well, I think it'd be fantastic. But we'll see where it all goes.
I don't see why they wouldn't have a success doing it. So I'm excited. I think.
But it's
cool.
Are
they putting it on TV or YouTube?
No, I think it's just a test to see how it goes and see how it's recepted and see how it all. It's kind of like AIM did a few years ago, where they were doing the catch, record, release. I mean, went out, they did a test of it, and now there's a number of AIM events around, and they're really good events. Whether it's in Minnesota, Wisconsin, North Dakota, they're all really good events. They've got a nice format put together, and all that's part of competitive angling, which is really kind of driving our sport right now, and that's okay.
Yeah.
3 weeks, I might have to sneak down to Mille Lacs.
Yeah,
that would be cool. Well, now since we're talking about tournaments, that was my next question. I'm really excited about it, but the whole high school fishing, the bass fishing. I know that there's working on getting a team here in town for the high school. We have some guests coming up that were just at the Kagama tournament, the high school championship. And it's just, from what I'm hearing, it's growing like crazy. And I think that's really, really cool. I just wanted to hear your perspective on it, the high school fishing.
I love the youth in all the competitive fishing, from the college fishing through the high school fishing, and the enthusiasm for it is quite staggering nationwide.
Yeah.
The numbers are just crazy huge. However, I'm all in, because it's giving us numbers and we're growing the sport that way.
Right.
If I throw a little bit to the air of caution, and I've talked to a number of people inside this industry that have kind of had the same thought process as I have, but we're very much the minority, which is high school. The only thing I don't fully support on the high school level is it's all about one species, one way of fishing, one. And the best description of that I've had is one of the individuals I was talking with had brought up the fact that in college we tend to focus and specialize on whatever our major is going to be to determine what the next stage of our life is going to go into. So we will focus on that. In high school, and even in your first couple of years of college, we're still we're supposed to be checking out everything and figuring out what's best for us.
Right.
And then what we got going on in high school fishing is it's all about bass. Period.
Okay.
It's not about the environment. It's not about fisheries. It's not about walleyes, panfish, catfish, anything. It's only about bass. And I'm not anti-bass. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that we're not exposing. Most of these kids aren't going to grow up to be Kevin Van Dam.
Aren't they doing high school walleye league or walleye ones?
It kind of still falls into the same thing that he's talking
about.
about.
It's still single-minded.
I never thought about it that way, and especially I don't know why I haven't.
And I'm not saying you couldn't compete in bass. I just think that the it would be really. I would love to see a focus that opened up the horizons and said, you know what, we're going to go pan fishing this week, and we're going to try catfishing, and we're going to try this, and we're going to try that, and we're going to learn about it, and learn about the fisheries, and learn about aquatic natural resources, and learn about and go at it from kind of the
classroom aspect, sort of.
I don't want to go too classroom because we don't want to lose them.
Outdoor classroom,
but But to say, you know what, you've got to have all these electives before we can move on to graduate class of strictly fishing bass and bass tournaments and put a Bass Pro in your boat and get you run around. That part, I think we're losing a little bit of the foundation of the sport of fishing because it's just like any other sport. 99.9% of these kids are not going to go on to make a living in the sport fishing world. They're going to go on to do other things, and that's true if they're playing baseball or basketball or anything else. Nobody's going,
Right. I've never thought of it that way, for sure.
So I'd love to see him expose the kids to more things. That's
that just re-solidifies in my head my ultimate tournament series called Ultimate Fishing, where you draw the species and you draw the lake,
and you go,
and then you have a regular tournament. So here you are, might be the world's greatest bass fisherman, but you draw northern pike. Are you a great fisherman? You're about to answer that question then.
I'm all in on that. Let's do that.
That'd be super fun.
Are you fun? If you fund it, I'm in.
Okay, I'll start. Well, and I'm just that kind of angry, like I look, like I don't watch the same movie over and over every weekend. I mix it up. So, I said, this weekend I'm going sheep's head fishing. You kind of grinned at me. Yeah, I do that.
Yeah.
And then later on in that same day or prior to going sheep's head fishing, I might be going crappie fishing. I might be going bullhead fishing. I might go look for some big bowfin or largemouth. I'd rather be decent at a bunch of things than really good at one thing.
And that's how we talked about that at the beginning here. We're talking about fishing, and fishing, our role is to. I love this sport. I mean, I've made a living my entire life inside this industry, and I want to motivate as many people as I can to go fishing, period. Yep. I don't care what they fish for. Yep. I have found a niche for myself inside of walleye, inside of ice fishing. I'm very passionate about bass fishing, but that's just my little niche of the world. Everybody's going to find out what makes them tick.
Yeah.
But you got to get out and you got to try it all. And the best fishermen out there, and I don't care if they're professional bass fishermen, who they are, they have fished for other species in other ways and done other things and applied what they've learned elsewhere back at whatever species they're pursuing.
Yeah, that's why I kind of admire a lot of these saltwater guys.
Oh,
no doubt. Man, they know everything that comes topside. They know how to catch just about everything that can be caught out there on a rod and reel. It's insane. It's intimidating.
But if you want to do that tournament and you put up the money, he'll be the host. Or
I didn't say I'd work it. I'm all in.
Oh no!
You'll
be the host for sure. You can fish it too, but we need you as the host. I wanted to say about the host just to kind of drag myself into the Cabela's NWT as the largest national walleye tour in the country, and you are the host. You are the guy on the stage. You're the MC. You're the guy doing the live videos. You're the guy doing interviews on the boats. You're doing the stage. You're walking all these people across. You have to memorize or know every single person. Although, sometimes you don't know, new people come in, and of course it tells you to help you out on their people coming up, but you have to know where they're standing day 1, day 2 of every tournament. You need to know all these different pros and etc. So I don't know, for the people that didn't know that side of you, that you're the host of the Cabela's NWT, I kind of want to get into that for a second. Just what is it like? I mean, this year I've traveled right next to you. I mean, I've sat in planes next to you going to the Cabela's NWT, and you think he's like posting on his Instagram. This guy's following me around.
I saw that. I laughed pretty hard at that.
I was like, yeah, I guess I'm stalking you. And then we'd walk by each other in the next airport, and we're like, hey. But yeah, I mean, you're the host of the show. I mean, the show, and of course it's on TV coming up here in a couple months, right? It's a couple months.
Yep.
And then of course you're doing the live videos, the weigh-in, etc. So what's it like being the host of the largest walleye tour in the country?
The Dave Mercer of the walleye world.
It's fun. I mean, that's why. I mean,
your personality is amazing on stage with everything you do. I mean, you can hype a crowd up. You can, well, Devil's Lake. You can sell cheese, or you can sell. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can do it, and it takes definitely a special person to do it. And I kind of just want to hear your insight of when did you get started doing hosting or emceeing? How'd that all form for you to be on the largest stage?
Well, it's really fun. I mean, I am a fan of fishing, and that is the bottom line of why I enjoy it so much. Excuse me. Because every tournament I go to as the host, I learn something about walleye fishing, and that's what I like most about tournament fishing, is that you take that many good anglers, you put them on a body of water, and somebody is going to figure something out that is new, unique, and different. And this is the thing about fishing. Fishing, we all look for absolutes. We look for, and we love tradition, right? In Minnesota, we love a jig and a minnow, right? And you're going to catch a fish. But at the same token, it may catch a fish, but it's not going to win a tournament on every day.
Yep.
If that's all you ever do. In what makes you take that many good anglers, you put them on a really premier walleye fishery, and somebody's going to figure out a new way to put a minnow on a jig, or a plastic on a jig, or a new crankbait, or a new way to troll, or something different, and we're going to crown a champion. And so I kind of look at it like I'm picking a puzzle apart. My job is to communicate with the anglers, get them to reveal enough information that can give us all a kind of a little glimpse,
taste
of what they don't like to reveal anything too much too early, right?
Right.
And why I still can't quite grasp it. It's not like all the other anglers are there to pounce on it, much less. It just doesn't work.
It's not like they're fishing side by side, looking over in the boat next to them
and frankly, if you've ever waved anybody into a hot bite, getting them to come in there and catch your fish, it just doesn't work very well, right? And only you can do what you are doing, and that's where I really getting off on another topic, but I love, that's what I like about hosting, and is my job is to figure out what they're doing and try to get that revealed to everybody that's watching and listening to it, because it's those little tidbits that'll make us all better fishermen.
I mean, when you go live on Facebook, let's say meeting day, right? Not even day 1 or day 2, and you see 300-400 people live, 500 people live, and you just start looking at the names. You're like, oh yeah, Tommy Kimos is listening. Oh yeah, oh there, everyone, you start scrolling. Oh, Jim Carroll's, you know what I'm saying? Because they're wanting to hear what the other people are saying at the same time. I mean, and of course there's other people listening, but you have that aspect where people want to get that little inside nook of what's happening.
Well, I think everybody's, at rules meeting night, everybody's kind of they're gauging body postures. They're looking at how confident somebody is.
And how was their pre-fishing?
How was their pre-fishing? Are they telling the truth? Are they snowballing? All that stuff is coming down.
I've never trusted anyone on that. Well, I had a terrible day today. Yeah, right.
Some of them, and some of them are telling the truth, and some of them aren't. But I mean, I got involved in in tournament fishing way back to where we're going back up here to Lake of the Woods to have our championship. I mean, the first professional walleye tour, the first PWT championship was 1992 right there on the Rainy River. And I go all the way back to that. That was my first real exposure to tournament fishing is when the Linders launched the PWT. It wasn't till about 5 years later that I was down in Walker, Minnesota when the PWT first came to Leech Lake that I got my first real behind-the-scenes look at what takes place there.
Okay.
And that was my first. And Jim O'Rourke was the stage guy at that time. Jim Kalkofen was the tournament director, and Mark the executive director, and I think Mark Dorn was the tournament director. But I got a real good glimpse of how it all comes together, and that was what really excited me. And just the whole how this works.
So how did you get into how'd you get to be a host or a MC?
I eventually in about 2008, I think it was 2008, about 2008 I ended up going to work for In Fisherman. I had an ice fishing television program of which I closed up the books on that right at that same time, and we opened up In Fisherman's Ice Guide TV, and that was the transition from mine to theirs, and they took over that, and I ended up going to work for them for Ice Guide TV, and then as my role was tournament director at the In Fisherman Professional Walleye Tour, and as we went forward with the Professional Walleye Tour, we dealt with dwindling budgets, of which ended up they kind of got rid of everybody except me. So I had to end up doing everything, and that's how I ended up on stage at the PWT. Now, in all fairness, I'd done tournament hosting for Minnesota Pro-Am Bass Tour. I'd done some stage hosting for other events in the meantime as well.
Yeah.
So
I owned a walleye tournament too at the time.
I'm not much for walleye fishing, but I do like watching you on the stage.
Well, thank you.
It's fun. You really do. You really bring a lot of
exciting
energy to
every
it.
time
I
I
like
hear
it.
Tournament watching a stage weigh-in for a tournament is boring. I mean, there's not a lot to see.
It's up to you and the fish.
Right, and you've got to figure out a way to make it interesting. And
half the time, the anglers don't even want to talk, and if they do want to talk, it's not.
I love this town.
Yeah, go Devil's Lake. But I mean, not a lot of people know the behind the scenes that goes on just to do what you guys do at, let's just say, the NWT, and I've got a glimpse into it when I'm watching you guys set up the trailer, the stage, or right when that last person walks across the stage to get the trophy. Next thing you know, you guys are just crazily running around, unpacking everything, getting interviews, and because at the same time you're filming a TV show at the same time there too. So not only do you have the TV show, but the stage, and then you have to make sure the standings are all being updated, and the fish are coming in weighed, and how many fish you have, 4 or 5, how many dead, etc. I mean, there's a lot that goes into what you guys do, and I think it's awesome. I mean, I've had an awesome inside look at it this year, and everyone, we're filming it, and you guys are filming it. It's going to be cool to be able to kind of see on TV this year. I want to watch it because I'm like, well, I was there, so I want to see what happened, on the TV show portion.
Well, you don't get to see any of that. It's a really good team. I mean, from Anthony Wright, the tournament director, to all the way through the entire office staff, everybody that is working to pull that thing off. It's a great team, and it helps that we've done it for a number of years together now. So it's really kind of gelled.
Like a family team.
Yep. There's definitely it's like you guys know this. I mean, you go on the road with people. You really end up with camaraderie, and everybody's there to support each other, and everybody's there because we all know what the ultimate goal is and what we got to get done.
Mm-hmm. Like in Saginaw, when you're like, what kind of ice cream you got over there, and then one of the team people go and gets like 5-6 ice cream for everyone, stuff like
That's
that.
Good stuff.
It's a cool deal. But I kind of want to talk. I have like 4 or 5 more questions before we wrap up here. But we kind of started out talking about you getting into the promotional side, advertising, fishing guide, mashing it together. You do a company right now. You own a company as well. You said you've owned a tournament, you've owned a fishing show, etc. But currently, you still have a company, right? And it's Fishing the Wild Side. So what, for the people out there who have no idea what it is and maybe they want to Google it or whatever, what's Fishing the Wild Side?
Fishing the Wild Side, which is fishingthewildside.net, because you need a net to catch a fish. See?
Because you
Clever.
need it.
Yeah.
That's a slogan right there.
Yeah,
'cause
I
you need a net.
just made that up, actually. This one.
That was pretty good. That's a T-shirt. I'm expecting to see that T-shirt.
But it's no, Fishing the Wild Side is nothing more than my way to communicate fishing information through myself versus just putting out there Chip Leer. But Fishing the Wild Side is always been kind of it was the name of my company, and it has been for a long time, and it's just an avenue to work under. So I've got fishingthewildside.net, the website, and we also have
the email blast, right?
Yep, we do email blasts through there. I've got, of course, we've got Instagram pages and Twitter pages and
YouTube
Facebook pages
videos.
and YouTube pages, all that, all the different social media avenues that we have. But it's really, it's just something to work under.
Nice.
So it's just you for the love of the sport promoting it in every way.
Yeah, and there's obviously it's supported by different manufacturers that I've worked with over the years. I've never where I'm different than a TV show, or I'm different even than a tournament fisherman. I generally don't go chasing sponsorships. That's not something that
we've talked about
do.
that deal on other podcasts too.
Yeah, I kind of I don't look at like, geez, I got to have a fishing line category and a crankbait category and a soft bait category and all that kind of stuff. I've let my fishing career, and not that I've never not pitched companies on sponsorships, but what I've found myself comfortable in is just kind of letting it evolve as it would naturally, and as I strike a relationship with the company, I let it grow, and I will do promotional work for them, fill the needs that they're looking for, and at the same time try to offer whatever I can. And sometimes they have lasted 30 years. Be the case Northland Fish and Tackle. Mm-hmm. And on the other times they've lasted a few years. They've had just a normal bell curve as you would with any relationship with any company.
We've talked about on other podcasts not to go fishing for sponsors in most cases. Do you and build something that the sponsors would be excited about, and not be that person. I mean, obviously, everyone's reached out and all that stuff, but when you just do you and don't put a first onto it, it sometimes will come to you. But you grow better partnerships too with different organizations when you do what you're kind of doing, and that's cool.
After 30 years watching a lot of people come and go inside the fishing industry, the one thing that is very true is some advice that everybody seems to hear but very few implement, which is you fish with the products that you like, fish in what you believe in, and if you are going to pursue a relationship with a company, pursue it with somebody that you believe in, but be fully prepared for them to say no.
Correct.
And continue to fish your way. Yep. And because as soon as you start to force it, none of it looks very good. It all looks forced, and it doesn't do anybody any good at all, and subsequently end up getting out of the business because it just doesn't work
for sure.
What's your favorite thing to do outside of fishing?
Ooh. Well, probably downhill skiing.
I was gonna say we've creeped.
Yeah,
we usually creep.
Did you do any marathons this year?
I run a lot. I do.
I remember last year I was kind of following you along as you were doing some marathons, and I haven't seen much. I have quit posting almost everything personally. Okay. For whatever reason.
You know what?
I'm anti-personal.
Oh no,
posting.
he's at McDonald's. We don't.
Yeah, but
Leer's at McDonald's. Got to get there.
I trail run a lot. And I love mountain running. I love single track trail running, especially at altitude. That is one of my favorite things.
You want to be able to breathe harder.
I
struggle for air.
I do. I love pushing my body to limits that I don't think, because it's really I love the physical as much as I like the mental part of being able to do something that I don't think I can do.
Is there an ultra marathon or 24-hour run in your future?
There's 20 to. I do a lot of. Shouldn't say a lot. I do a few 20 to 25 mile single track trail runs a year. That's my marathon.
Still, I can barely drive 25 miles without stopping to get a cookie or something. So running 25 miles is kind of out of my comprehension.
I'm working on one.
Yeah.
I have got a fantasy of doing a very, very, very long trail run that I'm trying to make happen.
Okay, because not that long
Really
ago.
long. Like really long.
Do you?
What's really long?
300 miles.
Oh,
Yeah.
I want to do it. I want to do that, not nonstop,
yeah.
but I want
yeah.
to do it in consecutive days, and that's what I'm trying to figure out how to
Well,
do.
do you know who Cameron Haynes is?
Yeah.
Did you? He's a runner.
Yes.
Yeah, and he did the Moab 240.
Yes, yes.
He run 240 miles.
Yeah.
No,
But
I
those
think-
guys do it without stopping,
Right. I think
or they do it with a very short
he had like
break.
a 5-minute
Yes.
rest or
yeah,
something.
no,
like
that's
that.
not. I'm not superhuman.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm
that
human.
sounds
I'm
ridiculous.
in
Well,
my 50s.
yeah.
and I'm gonna do this in days.
It was years ago. My little brother did a 24-hour run, and I was
Yeah.
like, "You're gonna what?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's like an 8-mile loop."
Yep.
And he ran it. He ran like 86 miles in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Which I was like, "Wow."
No,
What that has done for me, what trail running's done for me, is in understanding the ultras and that mentality, is that we are capable of doing way more than we think we're capable of doing.
Right.
Mentally, physically.
Yes.
It's the only barriers that we have in life are the ones that we put up ourselves.
In our heads.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You can do anything you want.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll teach you how to tie flies, and then you can take me on a jog someday.
I go a lot. So you're welcome. You're welcome.
They got to be
anytime.
really, really short ones
But
for starters.
But
Two
skiing's
miles
my
is
deal.
good.
Skiing's
Skiing?
my mountain,
see,
mountain life is my deal.
when we get a guest in here, sometimes we Facebook creep, and I did see that you were up in the mountains, like the big mountains, and I'm like, so I wanted to see if that was your thing, because I love downhill skiing too. So, seeing those pictures of you up in the mountains, we're like, yep, that's.
I spend every minute I can at in the Western Rockies. Yeah,
Well, that's
Wow.
that's
that's
awesome.
that's kind of where the fly fishing thing came from. You spend
There
enough
you go.
time out there and
Yeah.
you're looking at the streams. You're like, I really should go down and fish those. And you go down there and you fish them a little bit with a spinning rod, and that's all fine and dandy. And you can throw little crankbaits and little spinners and all that, and you catch fish. But eventually, you're like, I'm watching all these people fly fish. You're like, I can do this. I gotta try
This
this.
can be done.
Well, that could be quite the adventure on this 300-mile run if it ever came about. Is you got a little, 4-piece fly rod on the back,
Yeah.
fish a little bit, run
See,
a
I
little
should have
bit.
never said that because now somebody's going to corner me if it doesn't happen. So it's in the. Very,
We're talking about
very-
the fantasy guys.
Yeah,
The fantasy.
we're in the very early stages of trying to figure out how to make that happen.
Right.
I have
But I need somebody to fund that one too. So when you're
it's another funding thing.
Yeah.
We'll have to start a
Podcast
GoFundMe
getting
page.
expensive.
Have to start a GoFundMe page here. We'll see if anyone donates. Right. 2 small questions. Do you hunt? Yes or no?
I used to hunt a lot. So to answer it, but I have not actually hunted for
So the fishing is the
3 years,
fishing
probably 4,
state.
maybe 5 years.
What did you hunt for when you did?
Everything.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And why'd you stop that? Just time, busyness?
Yeah, I think it just evolved out of it. I know that I'm compulsive. I'm addictive. I'm compulsive, and I get obsessed with things. Mm-hmm. So I went through phases of pheasant hunting and grouse hunting and deer hunting, and I've gone through all of that. And now I'm at a point. I still would love to go. I love to be in the woods with deer. And my last obsession was whitetail. But I would go. I'm going to hunt for a couple of years and not shoot anything until I found one that I really
The right one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
That's like the catch and release. You see, I don't need that one.
well. One of the gentlemen that I most recently whitetail hunted with. That's what I learned from him was literally how to search the woods for a particular animal with, and this is all using trail cameras and scouting an enormous amount of time and finding one deer and then setting yourself up so you can cross paths with that one deer. And that is really addictive. Like
it brings a whole other game change.
You like all the detail stuff.
I love that. I'm like, okay, I'm going to figure out how to get to that one deer. That part is really, that's intriguing.
Yeah.
That's
That's just a different way to look at
And that's
the
why,
sport.
That's why I'm never going to bow hunt. Those guys at Destination are trying to get me to bow hunt. I just won't
They
do
also
it.
want to make $900 too.
Well, there's the
$2,000.
bows with all the cool little trinkets that you can bolt on there, and then there's that part of it. Exactly what you described is what I would get into. The next thing you know, there's dust collecting on fishing equipment because I'm the same type of person as I go all in for a while.
And I just don't have enough time to do it all.
Yeah.
And so and fishing still is my first love. And
Right.
there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
Is open water or ice fishing, or is it 50-50?
It's probably a little bit of both, but it's probably still more open water only because we have more season, right?
Okay.
I mean, the two things that there's peaks and valleys throughout a season, and ice is really obvious for me. That first rush of ice fishing is. I can't wait to get on the ice. I am chomping at the bit to get out there, drill a hole, catch some fish. That in March.
Okay.
When it's nice and we got a lot of ice and the bite's good and the sun's shining, that's really hard to beat.
Right.
Yeah, I hear you there.
In fact, March might be my, or spring ice fishing probably could be my favorite time of fishing all year long.
Oh yeah.
It's yeah.
Yeah.
And because I love it because by that time of year, you're fishing outside. You've got a whole bunch of people with you. You're never fishing one or two guys. It seems like you're always fishing like 5, 6, 8, 10 people.
It's the better way to do it.
Right. And everybody's standing outside. So you're all outside talking. And that's,
camaraderie of fishing.
Oh, yeah. That's really hard to beat.
Attitudes are usually on the upswing.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of and nobody's happy when it's 40 below zero.
No. And generally, early ice, you're screaming between tents, and it's colder.
Did you catch one yet?
Yeah. And there's the excitement of that first 4 or 5 inches. Yeah.
The broad's on the grill yet?
Me, if I could find a place where I could ice fish all year round, I probably would.
Yeah.
Just because I lived out of Minnesota for like 7 years and I didn't ice fish, and when I came back, I really appreciated what I had. It's so unique to the area. That's all I want to do is ice fish. And I like open water, but ice fishing is just, there's something about it.
I'm both, because when it starts to be that time where you can just hit the throttle and have that breeze hit you in the face and you're just cruising open water and you can just smell that fresh water, you're like, this is good. But then those
I thought you were talking about the snowmobile. I'm like,
No.
yeah, I'm right with you.
Then there's times where, you're on the snowmobile and you just have the sun's beating down. It's not horrible to be out there, and you just have that feeling. So it's a 50-50 for me. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But
Well, I think it's all, just enjoying whatever time of year you got to be on the water. That's big.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
At the end of the day, that's exactly what it's about.
yeah, absolutely. Last thing, Cabela's National Walleye Tour Lake of the Woods Championship is very soon to when this comes out. If not, it'll be either right around it, before, after, whatever. I'm thinking before, though. But what's your head going into it? I mean, it's a championship, right? I mean, it's 1 extra days added, Lake of the Woods. What's your mind thinking for this one?
My mindset on this event is exactly what it is, which is go big or go home. There is no doubt about what's happening here on Lake of the Woods. It's the whole season comes down to this. Joe Okada's leading our Angler of the Year race. Joe's been in second place 3 times.
I hope he wins.
3 times he has
NWT.
found himself in second place. It's more second places than anybody else in the history of the National Walleye Tour. So it's his Angler of the Year race, but it's a very close race, and there's a lot of really good anglers right on his tail. The thing that in from the lake itself, going into Lake of the Woods, it's had a great summer. It's produced a lot of really big fish this summer. Mm-hmm. And if the weather stays as it's been, there will probably still be a lot of fish in the basin, which will play favor to the Great Lakes trollers and everybody that is a good big water troller. Now, if the water starts to cool off and these fish start to move towards structure, which is generally what happens at this time of year, it could throw a couple it could change things up a little bit and move. make structure fishing itself a little bit more predominant? Could it bring in a new technique that we've never seen done on Lake of the Woods before? Yeah. I mean, the last, I don't know of a pro-am walleye tournament out of Baudette, Minnesota since the first national walleye, or since that first PWT back forever ago. So I think that it's going to be really an interesting tournament, whether it's trolled or whether somebody finds some resident fish. I don't think the fish are going to start migrating up the river by then. I don't think any of the shiners are going to move up the river, but there's resident fish in that river that could change the game. If we get a northwest wind and Anthony Wright decides to cut it off at the island in 4 Mile Bay, and the river is the restricted water for that day, that's going to be that's going to change everything. So I think it's one of the most level playing fields I've ever seen in the world of walleye fishing, because it's been so long since we've had anybody has any real experience there at this time of year. It makes for a really, really fun championship. And I you know what I love about it? I love the fact that there's 3 boats, right? 3 people are leaving there with brand new Ranger boats. That's a big deal.
That is huge.
And then plus we got all the other, what do we got? 300 other some thousand that we're going to give away. So that's remarkable.
Championship.
It's a championship, man. There's a lot of money on the line.
You just did your job, because I think I'm going to end up riding with Aaron, because I'm like really super excited just from what you just said right now.
He was on the fence of if he wanted to go. Now he's like,
yeah, I'm in. You did your job. You hyped it up. I'm in.
Well, it's going to be fun. I mean, I think we're at 71 anglers are going to be in the championship, or 70 anglers.
Yeah,
something
70 to 75, I think, was signed up
was
for
the
this
pick. So it's going to be really fun.
Yeah, it's cool.
And you never know. I mean, every time the championship, and I also really like the fact that on the last day we get down to 10, because we do 2 full days, then we cut to top 10. We don't know where we're going to be standing at Angler of the Year at that point, so we will certainly find that out. But
exciting.
It's going to be an exciting thing. So,
and a lot of times, the guy that ends up the championship champion is, may not have had the best year, so you never really know.
You'll never know. So But by the time this is out, I mean, anyone that wants to keep up to date, I mean, the Cabela's NWT National Walleye Tour Facebook page for live weigh-ins, etc., for Lake of the Woods, and that's September 5th, 6th, 7th?
5, 6, 7 September.
6,
yeah, nationalwalletetour.com. They can go to the National Walleye Tour Facebook page. Or you can get to myfishinthewildside.net.
.net, because you need a net to fish.
God.
Absolutely. Or you could come up to Baudette too. Be a person in the crowd, get on camera. The whole works for up there if anyone's in the area for Lake of the Woods. But I had an absolute blast chatting with you. As always,
good. It's fun.
I've hung out with you a few times this year, and you never cease to disappoint. So I super appreciate it. And do you want to say how good this podcast was?
Yeah, I should tell you this. But this was
the
best podcast
of this season.
Well, I believe that.
This has been the best, and
it's the best one.
How many have we recorded?
Just the one.
Just the one, right?
Just the one. So this is
you get the
best.
title, man.
You get to start it out. I mean, season 2 of The Broken Line, you get to start it out. You're our first guest.
Even the low bar is the high bar.
Absolutely. That's true for sure. But yeah, you get to start out the whole season for us, and
thank you.
We appreciate you coming out here. Next episode, we talked to Dylan Nussbaum, who won the Devil's Lake tournament for the NWT, so that should be a fun little deal there too. But we super appreciate it. We'll let you get rolling back home. You got a little bit of a drive, and I'll see you in Lake of the Woods.
We'll see you both in Lake of the Woods.
Yeah,
I think so. I think I'm going to be there.
Thank you, gentlemen. Pleasure to have you.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Broken Line Podcast. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media. Like, share, comment, and subscribe.